President Trump reportedly ready to revoke more security clearances as 13 former top intelligence officials representing previous Republican and Democratic administrations blast the decision to take away John Brennan's security clearance with a statement of support. The president explaining his rationale for the decision on the White House lawn earlier.
I've gotten tremendous response from having done that because security clearances are very important to me. There's no silence. If anything, I'm giving him a bigger voice. Many people don't even know who he is, and now he has a bigger voice, and that's okay with me because I like taking on voices like that. I've never respected him. I've never had a lot of respect.
President Trump adding that demoted DOJ official Bruce Ohr could be next to lose his clearance. Meantime, ex-acting CIA Director Mike Morrell, who was among the officials condemning Trump, is accusing the president of trying to silence critics.
The use of a national security tool for political purposes is inappropriate, unprecedented, and dangerous in a democracy. The risk here is that a number of people will no longer speak out because they'll be afraid of the president taking action against them.
Wow. So is this an effort to silence critic, Jedediah?
No, I mean, Brennan was out of control, to be honest. This isn't just a guy who was on TV and was disagreeing with some of the policies of the president. This is a guy who, remember, lied to Congress. He also gets on television and he calls the president treasonous. I mean, I don't understand why this guy would still have access to this. Typically, people hold their security clearances because in case the current administration wants to consult with them, they may be of help. This is a guy who's completely partisan. The second his security clearance is revoked, he runs to the New York Times and says, oh yeah, Donald Trump definitely colluded. I mean, that's why you don't have a security clearance anymore, because it's one thing to have an opinion about policy, and it's another thing to actively, relentlessly be on television trying to undermine the president and trying to use the fact that everybody knows you have access to these security, high-level national security information, so that you might actually know what you're talking about because you have this information. Use that to try to get paid contributorships, to try to get some kind of standing in society as someone who knows what they're talking about on these issues. So I think he should. I think it's totally justified that this guy should lose his clearance, and I think that anyone who's arguing otherwise has not been listening to Brennan's comments.
Okay, so here are some people who are arguing otherwise, Jesse. William Webster, George Tenet, Porter Goss, Mike Hayden. So these are some Republicans. Leon Panetta, David Petraeus, Jim Clapper. What do you make of this? By the way, I wanted to ask you, when Trump said on the lawn, nobody ever heard of this guy. I'm giving him more publicity, making him bigger than ever. What did you think?
Well, that was a response to him saying he's being silenced, because he's not being silenced. He's been all over the media, and he has been, and he will be. So with regards to these notable patriots on this list, I have a lot of respect for everything they've done to protect the country and to weed out our enemies. I just happen to disagree. They're sticking together, and that's what they do, and I understand that, just like anybody would stick together if you come after your fellow brethren. But I agree with Jedediah. This guy really deserves to have this revoked because of his behavior, and it's not just him saying that the president's a traitor or calling on administration officials to use Article 22 of the Constitution to remove him from office, and then making veiled threats like, oh, you're going to get something one day. He changed his story because he told the Senate under oath that he didn't see any evidence of collusion. And he never said that there was evidence of collusion when he put forth that intelligence assessment report after the election. And now he runs to the New York Times and says that there is evidence of collusion. He's not honest. He's been caught telling lies when he was spying on Senate staffers. He was the CIA station chief in Saudi Arabia during the Khobar Towers attack. He was involved with the WMD fiasco. He actually handed Benghazi survivors non-disclosure agreements at the memorial service for their fallen soldiers. So the guy didn't really deserve to be CIA director. Everybody said he was more of a political appointee, and it now makes clear sense.
Okay, so Dana, how do you interpret the 12 top intelligence officials, in fact, it's more than that now, who make the case, and here I'm quoting, that revoking a security clearance should be based on national security concerns, not political views?
Interesting question, because that was the point I was going to make. So there are like 13 ways that you can lose your security clearance. erratic, remember I said the other day, using the word erratic in the initial statement for the reason was actually clever, because that actually is one of the ways that you get a security clearance. If you can prove that you are not erratic, then you're fine. But the president said he's erratic. Then the president basically said, no, actually it's because of all the things that, mostly the Russia investigation, but the other things that Jedediah and Jesse point out are true. I think that this is an absolute power the president has, but even absolute power has some constitutional limits in our society. If John Brennan had done all the previous things, but had been on television saying, the president's right, it's a rigged witch hunt, he would not have lost his security clearance. So it was political, and I think what the professionals are saying is that it's better for us as a country, in order to keep us safe and the continuity of it, for us all to be together. But I would add this. Richard Burr, who is the Senate Intel Committee chairman, who is a Republican, he's been pretty quiet during this entire thing. People actually have a lot of respect for the Senate investigation. He said to Brennan in a statement yesterday, if you had some sort of idea that there was, or proof that there was collusion in 2016, why did you wait until yesterday to tell the New York Times about that? Why didn't you bring it to us beforehand, where we could have actually done something about it?
This is an interesting charge, because they have a situation where Dianne Feinstein had a Chinese person who apparently had ties to the Chinese government working with her, even as her driver in San Francisco.
20 years.
And then the CIA, the intelligence community, told Dianne Feinstein about it. The question is, why didn't you tell the Trump administration? Now, what you hear from from Brennan is, well, you know, this was an effort by the Obama administration not to get involved in a political campaign. Greg, are you buying this?
I don't know. I just think having a spy as a driver is a great idea, because drivers hear everything. Once you get into a car and you say JFK Airport, you get on the phone and you're in a fight with somebody, and the driver just soaks it all in, and you're in the back seat, and the driver doesn't exist when you're yelling and screaming. So I think this was the Chinese. That's brilliant. I mean, and I guarantee you there are more of those spies out there, because that's a great idea. I think there's a really funny story on FoxNews.com about what spurred Brennan on to go after the Russian collusion story. And it was based on a joke that Trump made. And Scott Adams, everybody drink. Made this clear. But FoxNews.com is quoting Scott Adams for pointing out that Brennan was spurred on by a joke. A joke in which Trump said, hey, Russians, can you find Hillary's emails? Only the truly humorless could have taken that seriously, which leads me to my next point. I don't really take this seriously. This doesn't really upset me. We live in a new world, right? If we can keep saying every day is unprecedented, the fact is no president has known this kind of language before. Of course, no president has used such language before. But if we keep saying this is unprecedented, as they were saying in that clip, it's pointless. I think Trump is this is another example of how he can mess with the media and mess with the Democratic Party, one and the same, while the rest of America, including our viewers, carry on. Democracy does not die in the darkness. It dies in their hysteria.
You say unprecedented, and that's exactly right. The media acts like every single day Donald Trump has come down the escalator and said the thing about Mexicans. It's like a Groundhog Day. Every day he shocks their conscience. Most of the rest of this country has absorbed it. We understand this is the new reality that we're living in. So what happens is Donald Trump says something, it's incredibly controversial, and the media piles on. They put all these words in a basket. They'll say authoritarian, racist, bigot, and then they'll mix it up and they'll pull it out, and whatever the word of the day that is that week, they will label the Trump administration as.
And I want to help them.
It's boring now.
Because I believe that they are sincere in their emotional distress. There needs to be a life alert for the triggered. No, and it's
emotional immaturity, because most people have now been jaded enough to realize the president is the president. He gets in the gutter. He throws haymakers after every single thing. And this is the new world we live in.
Yeah, but I think they become unhinged, a lot of these people. Like, to me, the scariest part about Brennan is is that he looks unhinged. The things he tweets out, these are not things that someone who's of sane mind and sane, who's able to look and say, you know, I disagree with the president on X, Y, and Z. Some of these tweets are outrageous. I wouldn't want someone like that to have access to high-level national security information. And that Trump derangement syndrome that, you know, people in the media hate when you say that, it is real. It is real when you sit and you have to find something every minute of every day to pick on Trump. You can take issue with his policy. You can take issue with whatever you want, but not on a constant basis. So much so that I'm starting to read headlines. Today I read a headline over at the Hill about furniture in the White House and Trump changing the furniture out because changing it from the furniture Melania liked. And I'm like, this is the point. This is why people look at media and say, gee, I wonder why it looks like.
Can I say one other thing, Juan, about those 13 professionals? Maybe not all of those 13, but I know a couple of them, and they don't like what has happened in terms of former intel officials going out and being very political. So maybe not all of those 13, but in the intel world, the former intelligence professionals, they wish that somebody like Brennan had not decided to go and make it political, because it makes it harder for all of them. The work that they do and the importance of them being able to talk to one another without fear of anything, it's really important for all of our futures, I think, even though they're not necessarily getting briefed every day.
There are two things I want to raise before we have to go quickly. But one is, I was listening to Chris Wallace today on the 3 o'clock show, and Chris was saying, well, you know, it seems to me like Trump likes to pick his foils. And he's made Brennan, much like Maxine Waters, into his foil.
Yeah.
And essentially, he's picked this guy as a representative of, Jesse, you're going to love this, the deep state, right? He's the deep state, and we found him, and it's John Brennan. Does this play to his base? By the way, all of you.
He's not attacking a black woman, because all you guys say is that, oh, Trump only goes after minorities. This is a straight white male who Trump is going after. Let's be clear. And also, Brennan has been the most vocal and vicious critic of this president. Sally Yates, former Obama administration official, Susan Rice, not even James Comey has said the same things that Brennan has said, and I think that's why he's elevated himself to public enemy number one when it comes to the president.
He made himself into the foil.
I don't know.
He did it all on
I'm
his
listening.
own.
I see that Bob Corker, the Republican from Tennessee, says this feels to him like what goes on in a banana republic.
Yes, but can I add one before we go? You tend to add this sentence after everything Trump does. Does this play to his base? If you can say that after every single sentence,
it's like saying unprecedented.
Yeah, it doesn't mean anything.
Everything plays to his base.
Everything plays, period, or it's pointless.
All right, don't go anywhere, folks, because we're debuting a brand new segment on The Five later. But first, potential jail time for the girl who pushed her friend 60 feet off a bridge. Details and debate next on The Five.
Anya foolery.
So yeah, the 18-year-old claims, Jedediah, that her friend wanted to be pushed. You know, she was scared. She needed a little push, as they say, and went to go visit her in the hospital afterwards to check in on her, and was refused entry. So it looks like, as Greg said, this is going to be in the courts.
Yeah, the girl who got pushed is very mad now.
Sure.
And she put out a video, and you know, she was saying that, or she was on video saying she wanted her friend to be punished. I just don't understand. You know, the 18-year-old that pushed her, I don't think there was malicious intent either at all. But you look at that potential fall, I don't know what was going on in her head that she thought that pushing somebody off that could possibly end well.
That's
because
not the right kind of
the
push.
thing is, if you do jump, you can control the positioning of your body. You have some control over what's happening. To surprise someone, I don't know. I feel like an 18-year-old should have had a better head on her shoulders to not do that. Even if your friend is there and going to jump, it's one thing to jump, and it's another thing to push someone when they're not prepared. Those are two very different scenarios.
Right, so let's get this straight. You just said someone 18 should have their head on their shoulder. I think these people could have been drinking, they could have been smoking. I don't know what they were up to, but it's 18. One's 18, one's 16. And in addition, I think she stepped over the rail and put herself in that position. I don't know about that, but the friend has no right then to, push her. But I will say she thought that she could somehow land flat. And I think, you know, like Dana was saying, that's not, she should have tried the dive, but she didn't do it.
But she said she fainted on.
I don't know if she fainted. She said she lost consciousness.
She said she fainted.
But the argument isn't about stupidity, it's about maliciousness. We can all agree that it's stupid, but we can't argue it's malicious.
But the charge is reckless endangerment,
right,
and it's considered. Nothing is considered intentional here.
Yeah, but Juan, you don't know how athletic this girl is. She's 16. She's scared. She gets a big push to be able to then all of a sudden maneuver yourself into a diving position, 60 foot up in the air. She was not prepared. If you're going to do that to a friend, you give them a little nudge so they can gather themselves and then they can jump out and land feet first.
I didn't know there was an art to this.
Yeah. But you know what,
I mean, it's really dumb, as you said. The 18-year-old, the hard push like that is going to make her carry over, and her momentum is going to make her land.
I thank God when I was 18 or 17 or 16, we didn't have smartphones.
Exactly.
Because all of us did, or maybe I'll speak for myself, did really stupid things.
But that was a jerk move by the friend who pushed her. But I will say this, when my kids say to me, hey, why don't we go bungee jumping? I say, hey, I'm not stepping in there. So no one has a chance to push me.
Do you remember, did you ever have a kid in your class who would pull the chair out from under you?
Yep.
Of course.
Yeah, and that was like, they thought that was funny. You could break a bone. Yeah, tailbone.
Yeah, Jesse does that to me all the time.
I'm looking at Jesse. I'm looking at Jesse. You're that kid, I can tell.
A friend of mine.
I can tell.
All right. Are liberals losing sleep over all the winning during the Trump presidency? What a new study says up next.
Every night I'm talking in my sleep. Lately I am so confused. I really don't know what to do.
Wow.
If you find yourself losing sleep over politics, you're not alone. 1 in 7 American adults, roughly 34 million people, are admitting getting a lack of shut-eye over our current roller coaster-like political landscape. All that tossing and turning and late-night hair-pulling thinking about Trump's winning is affecting 20% of those with a college degree and 9% of those with a high school degree or less. The hardest hit, younger baby boomers, ages 54 to 63, are the most likely age group to lose sleep over America's political climate. Greg, does this surprise you? That
emphasis on baby boomers, and so it's not surprising people in college are more affected by this because they're too close to the fire. In the fire being politics. I would rather be losing sleep over Trump's tweets than North Korea dropping a bomb on us. So I will take these present-day problems over problems of the past. The media has a lot to blame for this. Every day is the apocalypse. If the newspapers were honest, they would run a daily correction every day saying, yesterday we said the world would end. We regret the error. Because they really would regret the error.
Dana, I think the issue is social media for a lot of people, because when you're on Twitter, and that's why I wrote my book, #DoNotDisturb, endorsed by Dana Perino, by the way. But no, I think the issue is that you're on Twitter and you see this constant flow of information all the time. There's no break. Then you go to Facebook, then you go to all of the websites, and you're inundated, and people aren't able to process information at that pace anymore. So they kind of start to lose their minds, myself included. Is that
being more disciplined about putting your things away, your phones or your emails, however you get your emails on your laptop is better. I also would say that people ages 54 to 63, that's the age when you start being unable to sleep, and it doesn't really have to do with politics.
True.
It has to do with age. So I think that people are just making up an excuse. There's not a woman my age I know who actually sleeps really well every night, and it's not because of politics. It's just because we're human.
That's so true. I'm up at 3 a.m. exactly, and then I wander around the apartment for until I fall asleep.
I'm not even going to ask what you do in that
Oh, you don't want to know.
Scary.
Neither do the police.
Now, Juan, you're immersed in politics all day long, obviously, reading. What do you do to keep sane? Does the news ever, does the Trump news ever drive you insane? I mean, that face alone tells a million stories.
Well, I haven't slept since November of 2016. I'm trying to put it together. I'm working out, the psychologist says, now, what happened? What could it be? What could it be? Because, I saw that the psychologists are having a meeting out in San Francisco, and they have here, Jedediah, 15 symposiums on what Trump has done to the American mind. And it talks about people who say they feel hopeless, people who say they have no control, people who say they're now fearful because of Trump. And so I've been trying to figure it out, with the psychiatrist, and I thought, Well, maybe if I took a sleeping pill. But if I took the sleeping pill, then I'd miss Trump destroying me. So I can't do that because I want to be alert. I want to know what he's doing.
Got to sleep with one eye open to see what he's doing.
Yeah, all this tossing and turning and the blankets on the floor. You know, but the only problem is, you know, the wife doesn't like it.
Uh-oh.
What are you going to do?
Do you sleep?
ZQuil.
No, I mean, I was up all last night thinking about Bruce Orr. Think about it. What's so funny? He's hiding meetings with Chris Steele from the FBI, hiding payments to Nellie Orr, his wife, from Fusion GPS, yet the media is not covering it. And I'm thinking, why is the media not covering it?
This is what you thought about.
This is what was keeping me up last night.
Better?
And money.
And money.
And money. I don't make as much as Greg, so it's driving me crazy. And I'm stressed out. I'm stressed.
What, do you sleep
I
better?
might actually buy a llama as an emotional support pet.
No, I have an
Can
idea.
I bring that on the plane?
Wait. I read that Jill Abramson, who used to run the Times, has an Obama doll in her purse.
Oh.
Yes.
Like a voodoo doll or like an actual doll?
No, as a comfort.
Ooh, okay.
Stop. Come
I should get
This
that.
is true.
Oh, my God.
Because she says, you know, it's unbelievable what's happened in the country. So she looks back to the last time we had a competent, able president
Wow.
as a source of comfort.
That's the first, an Obama doll. That's a first for me. All right, well, coming up, we're debuting a brand spanking new segment on the 5, and Dana will reveal it next.
Yay.
Maybe I'm a wild card, a perfect little twist of fate.
Yeah. We're debuting a new segment today on the 5, Wild Card Friday. It could be great. It could be a shambles, but here we go. The 5 of us have each picked a topic that is not in the show. We've written that topic down and thrown it into this hat. And I'm going to now randomly pick one of those topics. And
Deep
that's
State.
what we are going
Deep State.
to talk about.
Unicorns.
Okay, sorry. It's like really put together here. Wildcard Friday. UFO spotted in North Carolina turns out to be Goodyear blimps. Is that
That
yours?
was you? That's a
Okay,
story?
I have a few bullet points. A North Carolina man sent the internet into a frenzy after capturing what he believes to be a UFO hovering in the sky over a lake on his cell phone. However, it turned out the sighting wasn't a UFO, but instead a Goodyear blimp covering a nearby NASCAR race. Goodyear released a statement about the incident. We don't want to get in the way of a good story, but that's definitely us. Jason Swing, the man who captured the video, is not convinced, saying, I've never seen a blimp like that.
That's the best part. The best part of the story is that the guy does not believe it still. And, you know, I've seen a few things in the sky myself that I have thought perhaps this is a UFO. A couple of times I've been corrected. It wasn't a blimp, but it was something else. But that's my favorite part of that story, that the guy, even when Goodyear comes out, he's like, no, that would be my dad. He'd be like, no,
Doesn't believe it.
That was not a blimp. Nope.
Didn't we have one of these things not too long ago where the pilots thought that there was something in the sky and there was a logical explanation?
Yeah, it was like a fly was caught in the glass or something, and it was like you could see it moving. Here's the deal. Growing up in my era of the 70s, you heard about UFOs all the time. There were documentaries, and there was stuff about Bigfoot, Loch Ness Monster, space aliens. Then we now live in this era of smartphones, and we don't see any of this, which is proof that none of this crap exists. There are no space aliens. There are no space aliens because we know everybody is armed with a camera for evidence.
I saw a video just the other day of something that looked like Sasquatch chasing a moose. And they said
that was Alec Baldwin.
It was that?
And it was in Midtown, and he was trying to get a taco, and he was chasing a truck.
And you were behind him with the cell phone. That was you. I didn't know. But you, Jesse, you got your pick. This is deep state. I think this is a Trump supporter who says, I don't believe anything. I know when I see that the deep state has set up a flying object, a big orange balloon over Fifth Avenue. You know
Whatever happened to the balloon? That was a Trump blimp. That was Trump blimp. I think it migrated over to America. I don't want to share my UFO story because I feel like it might actually lower my credibility as a news journalist. So I'm going to keep that to myself. But I am a believer. I think Greg's way out of line to think he's so important that he's the only living species in the galaxy. Come on, Greg.
You've never seen anything in the sky that you're even a little bit suspicious? Greg, I'm not talking about a drone.
Sober. I don't like pigeons.
Okay, meantime, you guys, as Jesse is trying to restore his credibility or something about UFOs, I'm going to tell you what another one of the topic was, just because we have some time. New York University makes tuition free for all medical students. Did you see this? New York University has raised
you, probably, right?
$600 million.
So boring. Wow. This isn't the daily briefing.
Hey, give her a break.
I mean, come on, Carino. We're trying to get a number.
Wow.
So bad.
It's like a policy walk story.
All right, let's pick another one.
Wow.
That's the 5.
But I'm
you
like-
do something on medical insurance for college
No.
students?
It's medical. You go to school, Jesse. They're helping young people become doctors.
Oh, that's even worse. I can't wait. Oh, we should lead with that tomorrow.
Let's go back to Greg being paid more than you.
What else do we have? What else do we have?
This is yours.
That's why Greg's paid more.
Southwest.
Yeah, this is mine. Southwest Airlines is formally allowing miniature horses on its planes as service animals. See, that's a talker.
I picked that one too. So we picked the same ones.
You were the ones that picked the same ones?
You said that we should have this.
We were the ones that rigged
That
it.
was definitely
Wait a second. I thought the airlines were cracking down on these comfort animals.
They are. There's only
Not
you can
this
only have
one.
3. Was it a miniature horse, a dog, and something else?
Cats, dogs,
Yeah.
and miniature horses.
Yeah.
Wait, a horse? You're gonna put a horse
A
on the
miniature horse.
Yes.
Ron.
Small.
It's like
I
the
don't
size
care.
of a big dog.
No horses. Come on,
Let me just
airlines.
say, when you have to clean up after them, it's the size of a big horse.
Well, that'll clog the toilet and
The
prevent
flight
the
will come
flight
back.
from going to
But you know, the thing is, it does kind of piss me off that people are gaming a system that's for veterans and people with real injuries. So what happens is something great is created for PTSD. You have a comfort set, and then you have all these other people going, then I don't have to pay for shipping my animal or the extra stuff. I'll apply for this online.
Right.
It was made too easy.
That is harsh. The people have serious psychological conditions, and you are making fun of them.
Yeah, like
You
me.
are not empathetic
Like
enough.
you.
I'm talking about veterans. I think that this
What's
was
wrong with
initially
you?
designed for
Well,
veterans.
you know, I don't like to fly. It makes me very anxious. Having a small petting zoo
All right.
would
Wait, don't you
not
hate to
make
I got
me-
one more.
You need one of these.
My therapy animal is wild turkey, as I've said.
Well done.
I have one last one. Prepare for a war on balloons, environmental experts say. This is, companies that want to ban straws. Well, now environmentalists say that pieces of balloons that fall back to Earth can be deadly to seabirds and turtles that eat them. Clemson University is ending its tradition of releasing 10,000 balloons into the air before games. What do you think about that, Jedediah?
Oh, wow. First the straws. First they came for the straws and
And the
then the
balloons.
balloons. I like balloons. I think they're
I love 'em.
beautiful. Next it's gonna be
I'm for this, though.
We're getting rid of everything that's fun.
Yeah.
We're getting
No
rid of
more
everything
birthday
that's fun.
parties. No more straws. Candles are next.
Yeah, so what do you do when in fact it says that it not only pollutes the ocean, it's causing electronic outages. In California, it said 203 power outages in the first 5 months of this year. So if the lights go out and you say, oh, was that a silly balloon?
Yeah, you know why? I feel differently about this one because I'm afraid the fish are going to eat the little.
Yeah, you
Not
do.
only that, but it absolutely has littered the beaches all up and down, especially the Mylar ones.
Let's just ban everything and sit in a room and do drugs.
Well, here's the thing. You should please
Don't ban the
please
drugs.
tweet the 5 and let us know what you think about the new segment. Now that
No,
I understand the
don't do
assignment
that.
better, I will make sure to come up with a
Nobody
better story
tweets
next
positive
time.
stuff. We know that, right?
Does anybody want to defend me on Twitter? Anybody at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue want to defend me on Twitter? Probably not. All right, stay right there. Fan Mail Friday is up next.
Turn it up, do you sing along every time you hear that song? Like we did then, like we did when